Germany will have hopes, potentially, of reaching the World Cup finalists. 4-time winners themselves, having had that perfect record until today, when Ecuador got that win. And having not scored a goal in their opening 2 games, I mean, despite some really attacking performance, particularly in the second of those games, they got the winner from Plata.
Yeah, and it was brilliantly worked. They had a couple of chances just before that as well, and Rodriguez had really putting himself about. It's a great flick on from Rodriguez at the front post, and Plata's just lovely movement, and he's just there at the right time. He's really quick to react to obviously the header by Rodriguez, and yeah, I think Joe might have something to say about Neuer, but I think from an Ecuadorian point of view, it's a brilliant worked corner. It's great reactions and finish from Plata, and look at these scenes as well. It's just, this is what it means to them, and they know that this was, potentially going to help them obviously go through to the knockouts, but it's amazing scenes.
And we think that's his family that he's going over to celebrate with. Joe, as far as Manuel Neuer is concerned, how will he look back on the way that goal was conceded?
Look, I just think you could really tell the difference in those moments, especially after the hydration break, about whose heart was in that game. Now, I'm not questioning Germany. It's difficult to go into a World Cup and start plotting your way through. They've already climbed the mountain in terms of winning their group. But from that hydration break onwards, I felt like Germany just weren't at the races, and I think that showed in that. Manuel Neuer's kind of on his heels. Jonathan Tah doesn't really get his body across, but Plata's just so... He's on it. Rodriguez with the flick. He's almost reached his foot across, reached through. Neuer doesn't. He's not even aware that he's there. Now you're telling me a goalkeeper of that caliber and that the things that he's achieved in the game, that he's not going to have that vision and that awareness. They just weren't at it. I think Alan was right actually after the game. He said Neuer didn't feel right. I think the whole Germany performance didn't feel right tonight. But you can't take away from how Ecuador played.
We're joined now by our South American football expert, Tim Vickery. I'm going to spin myself around to chat to him. Tim, look, we saw those incredible scenes inside the stadium. We saw what it meant to the Ecuador fans who were there on the day. What will it mean in Ecuador?
Well, I was in Ecuador when they qualified for the World Cup for the first time back in 2001. And I woke up the next morning and the streets in Quito were ankle deep in broken glass. Tomorrow morning, the streets in Quito will be knee-deep in broken glass because they are going to have a party, because this, I think, is the greatest moment in the history of the Ecuadorian national team.
Why do you give it that context, Tim?
Well, their aim here was to have their best World Cup ever. So that they would have to at least equal what they did in 2006 when they got out of the group, losing to Germany, and then lost to England. And it looked as if they weren't going to get out of the group. We did feel, though, didn't we, that they would fancy this more than the nightmare scenario of having to put goals past Corazon. Now, they've dug themselves out of a hole, and didn't it look for a while as if the entire world was against them? So they've really, really done it the hard way. I can't think of anything, certainly in their World Cup history, that compares to this. And now, someone's going to have to stop them. And stopping them might mean putting a goal past them. Wouldn't it be nice next time if it's a goal that's legal?
Yeah, and as we said, it's been that sort of binary, goals conceded, one goal here, sometimes a clean sheet, and again, it was just one goal conceded against Germany in this game. Do you think that in the midst of all his celebrations, there was a touch of relief for Becasese?
Oh, yeah, there certainly was. The previous coach, Spanish guy, Felix Sanchez, in the Copa America 2 years ago, they took Argentina to a penalty shootout. They nearly eliminated Argentina, the champions. Lost a penalty shootout. He was sacked in the dressing room after the game. They treat their coaches with great harshness. So there's a lot of relief, but also a lot of pride. Becasese with this team, his objective, he says, is to get them to defend like Arsenal and attack like Barcelona. Well, we haven't seen too much attack like Barcelona, but when they needed it, we saw plenty of defence like Arsenal. Congratulations to him.
Absolutely, and as you said, this is about him going back to basics, or certainly in terms of the team selection, it looked as though this was about him going back to basics and going back to the foundations that had got Ecuador to the World Cup and finishing second in the qualifying.
Yes, but they've got a player now who is growing, and that's Angulo. He wasn't 100% fit at the start of the tournament, and they brought him along gently. But you saw that insinuating one-against-one ability that he has. And that goal that equalising goal when everything seemed to be against them. That goal is the one that saved them. Delighted for Rodriguez as well, who was a player 4 years ago plucked out of the Ecuadorian second division and taken to the World Cup in Qatar very much as a surprise. And he'll run all day. There's not a great deal of quality, but he'll run all day. And today really was his day, because I think he made a terrific difference. He gave them more mobility, and he was taking on the German centre-backs physically. And I think that was important as well. And obviously it was his flick on for Plata's decisive goal. So well done to them. And you know what? The dark horses might take some stopping now.
Yeah, there are lots of people's pre-tournament dark horse picks, and Ecuador hadn't quite delivered up to this point, but everybody's going to be looking back at their slips of paper that have got their little, what's the word I'm looking for? Sweepstakes. That's the word I'm looking for. Tim Vickery, thank you very much for that. Nilson Angulo, the fourth Sunderland player to score at this World Cup. Sunderland players having an incredible World Cup, and Angulo in particular. And Tim talked about him growing into the tournament, Ellen.
Yeah, no, I think he's been a great addition, and he really deserved his start, you know, this evening. His dribbling ability, his quality on the ball, the way that he linked up as well with the midfield and also Valencia at times, and in the second half he really took the game to Germany, so he's really exciting. And I think as well for Ecuador, just having that switcher mentality when obviously they conceded that goal, to then go down the other side of the pitch at 7 minutes later and obviously, you know, have that finish and that ability and that vitae to be able to win the ball in midfield out to Angulo. And I think he done brilliant, you know, having 1-2 touches and then taking the shot maybe a little bit early, and obviously unsighted by Neuer as well, but he had a brilliant game, was a huge player for them this evening.
Tim Vickery described Ecuador winning this game as probably Ecuador's biggest ever moment at a World Cup. So I just wonder what it sounded like in Ecuador.
La pelota, Pedro Vito. ¡Gol de Gonzalo! ¡Gol! ¡Gol ecuatoriano! La hizo Gonzalo, que quiere jugar, que quiere clasificar en el Mundial.
La Rola Rodríguez, no sé cuántos minutos tiene en cancha, creo que 7, 8 minutos, pero ya hizo muchísimo más.
Well, they weren't just watching in Ecuador, they were also watching in New York. Under the shade of the Brooklyn Bridge, these Ecuador fans celebrating as hard as anyone back home. Just that little pocket of quiet Germany fans sitting at the front. That is not where you would want to be in that mix. Look, it was an incredible performance from a really battling performance. We talked a little bit about this at half-time, but it became even more important as the second half progressed, is how important this game was to Ecuador. And actually, although Germany played well and will have had that focus, there wasn't anything riding on it for them.
No, like I said, I think Ecuador was the team that wanted the most. And I would like to touch a little bit on general side of Ecuador, because this generation is fantastic, I think. You know, we have so many players playing big teams here in Europe, and would be really harsh for them to go out tonight. Ecuador are producing so many players the last few years, so well done to them. I think they are doing as a country a great job in producing players, and we could see today that could be the best World Cup moment for them.
Yeah, that they've ever had, and it could be incredible for them. That's what their ambition was when they came to this World Cup, and they played as though they meant to deliver on it. They created so many chances in the second half.
Yeah, tactically they were on it. You know, they saved it, obviously getting back from the setback in the first half. But this is an early chance. This is Valencia. I think, Ellen, you were saying he didn't really catch the game. And when he came out of the team, actually, they got better. So he's going to have a big decision when it comes to that. But they were just on it. They were just turning the ball over. Chances, they were causing unrest. This is obviously a difficult moment for Jonathan Hart, for Manuel Neuer. But Plata getting across the front post. They were throwing their bodies in everywhere. Here's just a simple miscommunication you don't expect with the top teams, two top players. But they were sensing, they were causing, they were rattling Germany, and they just kept pushing and pushing.
Yeah, and Rodriguez was a huge impact player coming on as a substitute, you know, using his physicality, his body. It's a great use of his body to be able to spin and obviously take that chance. And that chance led to the corner, which obviously they scored from as well. So, you know, he came on at 64 minutes and they scored the goal on the 77th. So his impact was absolutely unbelievable in the game.
23 games now that they've played under Bekasese, and this is the record defensively. These are the goals that they have conceded. It's either one or it's a clean sheet. And again, against Germany, it was one. And although this World Cup has been a tricky one in many ways, one of the lovely things about it is how many people of various different descents live in the United States. And there's an Ecuadorian, or a population of people of Ecuadorian descent of over 1 million in the United States, and they will be able to sort of enjoy this and take part. And we saw the ones who were celebrating under the Brooklyn Bridge. Germany did have a chance, though, to put the game maybe not beyond Ecuador, but to make it a lot more difficult for them. And it fell to Leroy Sané. How do you...
Scenes at the end of full time.
You know better than anyone else, really, how talented Leroy Sané is, but he does have those moments as well.
He does. Honestly, he's got such an unbelievable left foot. He can score from distance. He's got electric pace. He's played at the highest level, but he just will not take the big stage by the scruff of the neck. And I hope he does in this tournament for his sake. But yeah, that was a big moment.
If you're watching and you have any interest in this tournament, in how Scotland may or may not progress, you will know already that Ecuador winning is not good for Scotland. Ecuador, of course, have qualified. Bosnia have qualified. Scotland now down into 8th of the teams in 3rd place rankings. Either Cape Verde or Belgium could overtake them tomorrow, and Scotland's percentage chance of reaching the round of 32, as things stand, is 7%. At the final whistle last night after the defeat against Brazil, that was about 50-50, but results since then have gone against Scotland, and they now have only a 7% chance of qualifying for the last 32. But today, though, is